What conspiracy theory do you completely believe is true? A lot of rich people help terrorism and movements to destabilize a nation or a region to make money from its resources or people. Bill didn't cheat on Hillary. They have an open marriage where they can do what they want whilst traveling around for work. Reason for the infidelity lie? It's easier for the American population to accept a president making a mistaken fidelity than to accept a swinging president first lady. This would actually make me like them a lot more, especially Hillary. Bill still slept with someone who was working for him, and that's just not okay. I remember when conspiracy theories were confined to obscure, late-night radio shows like Art Bell. They were interesting and fun but never really intersected with real life too much. Since 9/11 and the rise of social media, there are conspiracy theories about everything, and they are having an increasing influence on politics' everyday life. In fact, a lot of them are actively promoted to have just such an effect. In my home city in the UK, a rage dealer was convicted of lacing his product with poison and causing the deaths of homeless people. In court, he claimed that the local council paid him off to get rid of some of the homeless people in that way. His defense was, "Why would I kill my customers? I have met one person that worked with the council and believes the story to be true. And years later I met some people that had worked with a homeless charity at the time. They claimed they knew it was the case, but there was nothing they could do to prove it, expose it. That wouldn't even surprise me if that was true." Something is going on with Bryan Singer. He's been accused of sexual assault multiple times in the past few decades, but nothing ever came of it. Guy was hosting parties with young men, potentially underage boys, and people like Kevin Spacey, and has been accused of molesting children. I'm not one for conspiracies, but he clearly has friends in high places that went to these parties and keep giving him work and burying the allegations when they come up. Or he has dirt on them. Seems like more people are finally talking about how crappy he is, but I never understood why these stories didn't get more attention. This one pertains to my university, but some people may have the same experiences with theirs. So students who choose my university send applications in by December. The entire COVID shutdown happens in March. Around the same time, university acceptances are starting to be sent out. Each first year student has guaranteed residence. Everyone is wondering what the new teaching model will be, and it's announced that it's mixed. 30% in person, 70% online. At this point, if you're in first year and all your courses are online, why pay for residence? You can do class online. But the university sees these discussions and know they'll lose a lot of money if they don't have students in residence. So what is announced? Almost every first year has at least one person class, meaning they have to be on campus, meaning they have to live in residence. IDK if this makes sense to anyone, but I thought it was interesting. This is true. I've deferred my application this year because I just didn't deem it worthy if it was going to be mostly online. May have shot myself in the foot though, because God knows how bad it'll be next year. Everyone I tell about this tells me I'm overreacting and it's just a conspiracy, but I strongly believe large companies who use eco-friendly products around customers only do it to make themselves look good, and to make the customer feel like pollution is their fault when they use, for example, plastic straws, when in reality using eco-friendly straws barely dents the amount of pollution the company itself makes behind the scenes. Oh no, I can 100% believe this. Big companies will do anything that is not difficult and makes them look better, and this fits both of those criteria perfectly. I'm in the Navy and we change uniforms a lot compared to other branches. There's a conspiracy theory that there's a rear admiral whose wife has stocks in the company that makes our uniform. I just randomly heard someone talking about it. I have zero evidence that it's true, but I 100% believe it. Yeah, the Navy seems to change their uniforms way too much. J. Edgar Hoover had ties to the mob and gave preferential treatment to certain crime families organizations while crushing others. Also, his stranglehold on American intelligence made him a figure presidents feared. My understanding was that, specifically, the mob had photos of him and his boyfriend doing, boyfriend stuff, which is a pretty intense threat when you're the no queers or commies guy. The Big Mac has gotten smaller so McDonald's saves some money. I dunno, but I swear the Big Mac used to be bigger. Or maybe I am just fatter. All that stupid stuff shared on Facebook is just a way for people to mine your information for forgotten passwords, resets and stuff. Things like, bet no one remembers the street they grew up on, I'll wait, or what would your name be if you took your mom's name instead of your dad's. Actually how hacking is mainly done, lol. Not much hacking into the mainframe, mostly just social engineering. Not a specific theory, but I have no doubt that the majority of leaks for the entertainment industry, video games, movies, TV, etc., are completely purposeful and meant to gauge general opinions before official announcements. Nintendo isn't accidentally leaking source codes. They want to see how much interest their flagship franchises get, and from there they decide which games to push. Pokemon Gold version's lost beta demo from Spaceward 97 is found in People Lose Their Minds. Huge push for Pokemon and stoking the flames of the rumored, now confirmed, Pokemon Diamond Peel Platinum remakes. Super Mario 64 inches gets the iceberg and the source code leaked. People lose their dang minds. Suddenly they're releasing Super Mario 3D All-Stars with Super Mario 64 inches on it. Well, the government is listening to everyone's phone calls and reading our emails was once considered a conspiracy theory, and we all know how that turned out. This is the smallest conspiracy ever, but you know how when you pull a tissue out of a box, there's this dust that comes out from the tissue when it scrapes the perforated edge? I swear it's designed like that so that the dust makes you sneeze, and then suddenly you need more tissues. Rise up against big tissue. Finally someone said something about this. There's too much dust in general on tissues. It all gets freaking stuck in my nose and I'm back where I started. Switch to napkins, bro. That Area 51 is heavily involved with unidentified flying objects. The only difference being that said unidentified flying objects have been designed, built and tested by the United States Air Force. They keep Area 51 hyped in secrecy because they don't want you to know it's all really stored at Area 52. I still to this day believe that for every sock that goes missing in your dryer it turns into a Tupperware lid in your cabinet that fits nothing. I have seen no evidence to disprove this. I think missing socks turn into extra used dryer sheets. I probably do 7 or 8 loads of laundry per week, but I find at least 20 used dryer sheets in unexpected places. I was on the fence about this one until I watched The Last Knock, but now I absolutely believe the theory about the CIA being responsible for the death of D Agent Kiki Camarena. His death in 1985 helped spark the war on drugs because he was allegedly murdered by Mexican drug traffickers and the DFS, which was a largely corrupt police force at the time. However, some people think the CIA actually murdered him, or at least helped the drug cartel kidnap him. There are multiple witnesses who were there during his murder who place a CIA agent there. The motive would have been because Agent Camarena was close to uncovering the Iran-Contra affair, or something similar involving the CIA using drug money to fund arms sales. The evidence presented in the doc is pretty damning, and I was fully expecting someone to have discredited the witnesses or called out shoddy research or something after it came out, because it's just so wild. But so far everything presented seems on the up and up. Ghislaine Maxwell was one of the most prolific posters on Reddit, and had an account that was, at the time, the 8th highest karma in the history of the site. The account stopped posting the day that Maxwell was arrested, and has had many notable posting absences that coincide with Maxwell's important life moments, notably her mother dying and the Reddit party that Ellen Pao mentioned seeing Ghislaine at. The account mentioned having a birthday in late December, after the 21st, while Maxwell's is given as the 25th. The account often posted regarding the legalization of child pornography and child protection laws, but never mentioned Epstein despite the political subs they moderated, while certain other mods have made claims that they are still in contact with the account. Various other inconsistencies seem to invalidate that, such as them claiming that they were from a certain country, but not knowing that country's national dish, not mentioning too many specifics to prevent brigading, but you can find more info elsewhere. To be fair, if you asked me my country's national dish I'd probably not be able to answer that too. The Hawaii Falls missile alert was an experiment in how mass people would react knowing they're about to die. Conversely, that we're all about to die and all this political crap show Maliki is a distraction. But I'm also schizophrenic, so give it a minute before I start thinking the walls up he offered me or some crap. I heard a story from a guy on Reddit who said he had sex with his sister because they were both virgins at like 22 when he heard the missile alarms. We can't afford to own a house like previous generations because money laundering ruined the cost of living. Not completely, but that whole humanity resets every 7,000 years due to some big chance do be looking believable as of now. I got a pretty harmless one. Stevie Wonder can see, the world's elites are in on it, which almost got blown open when George W. Bush waved at him. The government is spying on us. The Patriot Act is terrible, and somebody is most likely watching me right now. Oh, wait, I forgot. That one was already proven. Tommy Wiseau is DB Cooper. For those of you who don't know, DB Cooper is a famous American thief. Aboard a plane flying from Seattle, Washington to Mexico City before the plane was over Reno, Nevada. DB Cooper robbed everyone on the plane, took all of the parachutes and jumped put off the plane, and was never seen again. Nobody knew his name, and he spoke with a strange accent. Tommy Wiseau showed up seemingly randomly, with a ton of money, has been said to be older than he says he is, and speaks with a strange accent. At one point people found a ton of money which was said to be DBS ransom money or stash, and the guy they were investigating didn't look much like him, and the evidence was never convincing and the whole attempt was some History Channel bulls. Tommy Wiseau however fits the bill. In the skydiving community this comes up every so often. DB Cooper died in the jump. He jumped into heavy forest at night, even with a round canopy that's dodgy as frick. He had basically no control over where he landed. Even if he landed safely, he had no way of knowing where he was and thus how to get out. As somebody who works for the government, some of y'all grossly overestimate the government's competence and secret keeping abilities. The Rebecca Black song Friday is about the JFK assassination. The driver of the car he was assassinated in's name was Samuel Kickin. Kickin in the front seat, sitting in the back seat. The assassination occurred on a Friday, and when he was shot the Secret Service yelled at Jackie Kennedy to get down. Got to get down on Friday. Parts about the Cold War and the spread of communism are referenced. Everybody's Russian. And to top it all off, in the hotel that morning JFK declined a breakfast of sausage, eggs and toast for a bowl of bran flakes instead. Got to have my bowl. Got to have cereal. Also, the following Monday JFK was supposed to sign a bill into law requiring all public schools to provide bus transportation for their students. Got to catch my bus. There are so many JFK comments on this thread, but this one takes the cake. I believe conspiracy theories are the ultimate conspiracy. They send the message that there is some invisible hand controlling things, meaning there's nothing you can do to change it. They instill complacency. Yeah, and I agreed with a dude a while back who said he thinks the term was coined in a way to make conspiracy theorists look like tinfoil hat wearing crazies so no one would take any conspiracies seriously. That there is a circle of cultural terrorists that whisper conspiracy theories to some gullible people and are the origin of most conspiracy theories that go around sowing mistrust between factions. Facebook wants to know your location. I am still to this day skeptical that a low-level hood like Jack Ruby, a man with ties to organized crime, and at a time when J. Edgar Hoover was giving no attention to organized crime, that Ruby, owner of a strip club, would be so incensed over the shooting of JFK, would be motivated above all others to assassinate Lee Harvey Oswald. It defies any logic. That's the one thing that fricks me up about the JFK assassination. I'm pretty sure the US government knows things about UFOs that they aren't telling us. That's not to say I believe UFOs are alien spacecraft. I don't know what they are. Almost like they're unidentifiable objects. Dat fly. The third shot that hit JFK was fired by a Secret Service member, but it was entirely an accident. The motorcade surrounding him was full of Secret Service. Some were standing up on the seats. When the first shot was fired, they were all on high alert. Fingers on the trigger, looking around. The drivers all hit the brakes. A guy standing up in the back lurched forward and pulled the trigger by accident. This shot hit the president. He had already been hit twice and was pretty much toast, so it didn't matter. But they covered it up. I like it as a conspiracy theory because it reduces such an important mystery to a pure human accident, which is what a lot of historical events are. Calling healthcare workers heroes is a deliberate ploy by the powers that be, so that at the of all this COVID crap and there is a pile of us dead, the conversation isn't about how the government and hospitals fucked up, but our heroic sacrifice. While Lee Harvey Oswald did shoot and hit JFK twice, the final, killing shot came from the Secret Service vehicle directly behind the president's vehicle, by accident. The agent carrying the Secret Service's one and only AR-15 at the time stood up when JFK was shot the first 2 times, and was thrown back in his seat when the car lurched forward, causing him to accidentally shoot the president in the back of the head. The US and other world leaders aren't some genius masterminds, with infinite knowledge, resources, and information, but are a bunch of people in way over their heads barely keeping their crap together, with one trip away from fricking everything up. Personally, this terrifies me more than if they were evil masterminds. At least those are in control. The Lost Cosmonauts. I think it's absolutely possible that there were attempts by the CCCP to launch manned aircraft into space before Gagarin and that some of the cosmonauts died. This one's been bouncing around, but given how much we now know about the Soviet space program after the USSR collapse, including the details of embarrassing failures like Soyuz 1, it seems odd that this in particular would be so completely concealed. Ancestry DNA and the rest of those ancestry websites are run by the government to have access to people's DNA to cross-reference crimes, etc. That's not a conspiracy theory, it's in the fine print when you use their services. The US military is a huge lobbyist behind not adopting socialized healthcare and college because those are the 2 main reasons that people join the military. With socialized healthcare and college, recruit numbers would plummet, and we would no longer be the military powerhouse that we currently are. This is the first time I've ever heard this, and it's so obviously true. When I was in my teens, that Tupac was alive and would come back for an album. I want to say it was the Theory of 7S or something. I'm a bit more critical of what I read now. That Flight 93 was shot down by the US military on 9/11. If you know that 2 hijacked planes were flown into the WTC and 1 into the Pentagon, and that a 4th hijacked plane is headed for the White House, you take it down. Period. If you can take it down over a rural area, all the more better, which it was. I think they took the best option in a worst case scenario and made the passengers out to be heroes, and rightfully so, because the people on that plane were already heroes to somebody in their lives. That the Prime Minister of Canada Justin Trudeau is the son of Fidel Castro. His mother Margaret Trudeau was known for fooling around and his dad Pierre Trudeau was good friends with Fidel Castro. Justin and Fidel also look alike. Carol Baskin didn't kill her husband. I believe he was heavily involved with drugs and that's the reason why everything he touched turned to gold. I think he flew drugs over to Mexico and it all went wrong and never made it back. During that time period in Florida, flying planes low under the radar like she admits he did was absolutely a drug running thing. My only question is whether he got killed by a cartel or just faked his death. But either way, I'm sure she knows what really happened and would rather let people assume she killed him than to risk getting all her assets seized by the feds. We're all puppets and social media and news corporations are the puppet masters. Watch The Social Dilemma on Netflix if you're curious. I'm seriously freighted at the lack of control that we have and that I have when it comes to social media. However bad you think it is, it's probably worse. I'm 95% certain Monty Python and the Holy Grail is not historically accurate, and that medieval knights didn't go about banging coconut halves together to make horse riding sounds. Heretic. The American government wants to keep us poorly educated and unhealthy, just enough to be too busy to stand up for ourselves. O.J. Simpson didn't do it, it was Jason Simpson, the LAPD. was so convinced that they had their man that they tried to make the evidence fit the suspect rather than allowing the evidence to lead them to a suspect. OJ didn't do it. Nicole Brown was nearly decapitated and Ron Goldman was stabbed 20 plus times. The prosecution claimed the injuries were consistent with 2 knives being used and produced a stiletto knife good for stabbing but not cutting and a Swiss Army knife not really good for hurting anyone other than yourself. Ron Goldman had numerous defensive wounds and the injuries to his hands indicated that he had landed numerous blows, yet OJ had only a small cut on his hand with no other evidence of having been in a fight. The only evidence found in OJ's home were a few drops of his own blood which were contaminated with a preservative used in blood draws. Jason did it. Means Jason was employed as a sous chef and had his own knife set and also owned a double-edged combat knife. Motive: Jason was cooking alone at his restaurant that night and had specifically invited Nicole to come see him cook. She stood him up and went to Metsaluna where Ron Goldman worked. Jason was known to be bothered by Nicole seeing men other than his father. Opportunity: Jason's time card that night was handwritten for a time much later than when the restaurant shut down. His alibi changed multiple times, but the last time anyone can definitely account for him is around 9:30 that night. The kicker: the day after the murders, OJ retained one of LA's top criminal defense attorneys for Jason and did not hire his own defense attorney until several days later. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.